Welcome to another episode of Resilience Rising with Naturally Cinnamon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whatever time of the day it is that you're tuning into this podcast, please enjoy this episode. I need you to like this, love it, rate it, share it, comment, whatever you need to do based on whatever platform you're on, but definitely subscribe and share and follow this podcast. I am Naturally Cinnamon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a therapist, life coach. I am the resilience cultivator, and I am the founder and CEO of Jamila Wellness LLC, where women go to be well and live beautifully. You can find that company, my company, online at jamilawellness.org. You can also find all things me at naturallycinnamon.com. Today, I want to share a story with you. And I don't really have a title for this topic of this story yet, but I just want to share it with you. And we'll be chatting just a little bit about purpose. So one morning I went out with a friend and some of his friends, and we went fishing. Now, fishing is not one of my hobbies. It's something that they get together and do often. So I've known, I've heard stories about them go fishing. They go as a group. Sometimes they each just go individually, whatever, what have you. And okay, I've heard you guys talk about fishing often. Wonderful. I'm glad you have something that's a hobby that you can have a good time. It's not something that interests me, and it's not something that I know much about. But this particular time, it was a group of people and I was invited, and I was like, I just can't keep turning people down when they invite me out to stuff. So I went. And after I agreed to go, I found out just how early in the morning they were going to go on this fishing trip. And I think I had to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And already I was like, you have to be kidding. I don't want to get up this time of morning. I want to be good and in my bed. I want to be getting my last few snores in. I don't want to get up, and I definitely don't want to get up to go fishing. I don't know nothing about fishing. I'm not going to enjoy fishing. I was like, Lord, let me just take a chair and something, because I know I'm going to be out there asleep. So I wake up and I wait for one of my friends to come pick me up, and then we go and find the caravan, and they're getting their bait and they're organizing all their stuff. And I'm just like, it is too early for this. They're stopping at gas stations, gassing up. And I'm like, how far are we going? This is too much. So we ride for what felt like about 4 hours. It was probably only like an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. And we rode down into some point in the Florida Keys. For those of you who may not know, I am in Miami, but we rode down into the Florida Keys. And I guess it was a nice ride. I don't know. I fell asleep. I'm going to be honest. Like I said, it was like 4 something in the morning. And so we get to this pier, I guess it's considered a pier. And I'm watching all of these people get all their equipment out of their vehicles, their cars, their trucks. And I'm just like, this is a lot of stuff. Y'all have a lot. Mind you, I wasn't there when they packed their cars up. So I'm seeing them unpack all this stuff. And I'm like, how many poles does one person need? How many buckets does one person need? If we're all going on as a group, why does everybody have their own individual buckets? And why does everybody have their own individual coolers? And I was like, this is so much stuff. So I'm like, okay, so how far down the pier are we going? When I say we walked and walked and walked and walked, lugging all this stuff, and I was like, y'all gonna have to sell me on this fishing thing, because already I am thoroughly not enjoying myself. I want to be home. Number one, it's dark. Number two, there are no lights on this pier, and we are just walking in pure darkness, lugging a bunch of stuff that I don't understand why y'all have all of this in the first place. This is just too much, and I'm keeping it in, but I'm in my head. I'm just like, I'm never doing this again. This is not something that I'm going to repeat. This is a monumental waste of my time. I could be getting in my last few Z's, because when I get up in the morning, I have stuff to do. I like all of this is going through my head. And I was like, how do do y'all enjoy this? This sucks. I hate this. I was like, this is, oh my God. If it weren't for somebody specifically asking me to do this, and I've turned down so many things so many times, let me just put a pin there. I'm an introvert and I love being at home. I enjoy my own company. I don't have to be out surrounded by a large group of people. I can be surrounded by my few people and I'm good. So this whole thing about me trying to get out of my comfort zone and accept an invitation to something that I have no understanding or knowledge of, that was something I had to really talk myself into doing. So fast forward now, I've talked myself into doing this thing, and about 2 hours into it, I haven't found an enjoyable moment yet. So you can imagine where my head was at this time. I'm like, Cinnamon, girl, what have you agreed to? What is this thing? Where are we going? What are we doing? And mental note, not gonna do this again. We hadn't even gotten to the point of the pier that we were going to, but I had already decided I'm not doing this again. I'm not repeating this journey. This is too dark. We're walking too far. How many poles does one person need? It was just a disaster waiting to happen as far as I was concerned. And I was like, I didn't bring enough. I wished I had brought my laptop, but of course I knew there was nowhere for me to plug it in when the battery died. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go. And of course I had a book to read, thank God. And I had my cell phone, which was fully charged, but I was just like, here we go. So we finally stop at some point at the pier. And I'm watching again, my guy friend. First thing he did, blessings to him, is he pulled out this chair and he's like, here, you can have a seat here. I'm like, thank you so much. Because of course I did not have on walking shoes. I had on some sandals or something. So I was like, my feet gonna hurt if I have to stand up here another hour after we just walked what felt like 3 miles. It wasn't 3 miles, but it felt like it to me because I didn't want to be there anyway. So I had a seat and I watched this group of people unloading all of their equipment and setting themselves up. And I'm like, it's still dark. How do y'all know what y'all are doing? How do you know what's going on here? And of course, that's because I didn't know what was going on. So I didn't say anything. I'm just sitting there. I'm watching. And then by the time they got started, I looked up and it was still dark, still very dark. I was like, wow, these stars are beautiful. They were awesome. I wish that I had a type of camera that could have taken pictures of the stars, because I would have been out there taking all kinds of pictures. I've been in the country before. My family's from the country and I've seen stars at night, but I all this time I had been looking around and looking down like there's no lights here. I can't see anything, that I didn't look up to notice because there were no lights. You could see the stars so clearly and they were beautiful. And I was trying to think in that moment, when was the last time I had been in a setting that I could look up and see something so beautiful? Like, I didn't have to go to a planetarium to experience this. I didn't have to look at pictures or Google different images and look at Google Earth and stuff like that. I didn't have to do that. I'm sitting here personally, me, in this space, in this moment, in such beauty and magnificence. And I was just like, wow, this is beautiful. And so I just kept gazing at the stars while they were doing whatever they were doing, setting up. I was just mesmerized by the stars for what felt like 10 minutes. It may have been 10 minutes that I was just like, this is really, really beautiful. And every angle I would look at and where I would turn when I looked up, the stars were just gorgeous. It was just beautiful, gorgeous, awesome, magnificent, all those wonderful words. That's exactly what those stars were. And so as I'm gazing at the sun, at the sky, I start to see the sunrise. And it's equally beautiful and magnificent. And and natural. And I'm right here and there's nothing obstructing my view. There's no trees. It's ocean and ocean and more ocean and then the sun. And I watched the sunrise. I don't remember the last time I saw the sun come up. And if I did, it may have been early in the morning while I'm driving somewhere. And of course, I see highways and cars and buildings and people and road signs and electrical wires and all this other stuff and telephone lines, and everything is obstructing my view. And here I am in this moment where with an unobstructed view of the most beautiful sunrise I've seen in a very, very, very long time. I couldn't remember the last time I saw stars that beautiful. I couldn't remember the last time I saw a sunrise, like the complete and total sunrise from beginning to end. And I realized in that moment, I was about to miss this. Because I was so sold on, this is a waste of time. This is a horrible trip. This is, want. I was just going on and on in my head that by the time the sun was fully risen, it had been an hour that we had been sitting out there, and I didn't even realize I'd been out there that long, just admiring nature and admiring the sky and how beautiful the horizon actually is and how gorgeous and calming the ocean actually is. I was about to miss all of that. And I sat and I thought about that for a while before I even opened my book and got into the book. And what's funny is I ended up kind of getting into what they were doing and finding myself being curious and wanting to learn more about what they were doing with all the equipment that they had. But what I noticed, I learned two things that day, that morning, as I sat and reflected on that. And the first thing that I learned is I had to remind myself to just go with the process. Sometimes it's going to seem like whatever I'm doing right now is a waste of time. It is like, what am I doing? Why did I agree to do this? And I can remember thinking that way a lot of times going through college. And I was like, why did I come to college? Why am I sitting in this class? Why did I pick this major? What's going to be in this for me? This is such a waste of time. This class sucks. This teacher, she's like, ugh, she's so boring. And I remember just being like, what's on the other end of this? I don't know what's on the other end of this. And what was on the other end of this was that I had gotten a degree, and I got a degree in the field that I desired, and I'm still working in the field that I love, but I went through that journey and I went through that process. So that reminded me, look what was on the other end of this journey. The journey was questionable. The journey was, I was unsure. I wasn't sure about this. And I'm like, why did I agree to this? This is just, it hurt. It was uncomfortable. It was interfering. It interfered with what I really wanted to do at the time. It got out of my comfort zone. But in the end, I was able to experience something that a lot of people actually never get a chance to experience throughout their entire lifetime. And I was able to experience it and enjoy it and understand in the moment what I was experiencing and enjoying, because I went ahead and went through the process. When we got to the pier, I could have just stayed in the car and be like, nah, I'm just going to stay here and sleep. I don't want to go out there. I don't really want to be here. I could have done that. I could have stayed in the car and slept. I didn't stay in the car and slept, and I would have missed the stars, and I would have missed that incredible sunrise, and I would have missed the birds chirping, and I would have missed the calming of the sea. I would have missed all of that if I'd stayed in the car just to go to sleep, because that's what was comfortable for me in that moment. So that was the one thing. I was reminded to go through the process. The second thing that I learned, the first thing was a reminder. The second thing that I actually learned in that moment was I was questioning, why did we have to drive so far? And I was questioning, why did we have to walk so far? And I was questioning, why do you have to have so much stuff? Just because I don't understand the point of driving so far. And just because I didn't understand the point of walking so far, and just because I didn't understand the point in having all the things that they had, and I didn't understand the tools that were necessary for what they wanted to do, doesn't mean there wasn't a purpose for it. Just because I didn't get it doesn't mean it didn't have a purpose. And I want to say that one more time. Just because I didn't get it doesn't mean it didn't have a purpose. Like when golfers go golfing, Lord have mercy, they have a whole bag full of clubs. I don't know what's the difference between one club or another, or why one is so much more important than the other, but they know. They know the purpose. I don't get the point, but they know the purpose. People who like to go bowling. I have a cousin that likes to go, he got into bowling. Well, he got his own shoes. He got his own ball. I'm kind of like, when you go to the bowling alley, they have those things for you. Like, why do you have to have one of your own? What, you special or something? He gets it. I didn't get the point, but he understood the purpose. There are times when we'll be going through our journey and we don't get the point of certain things, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a purpose. There are times when you'll be doing something and other people won't understand the point to what you're doing. They won't understand the point to something you've chosen not to do, but it doesn't mean that it's not for your greater purpose. There are times, and there will be times, or there may be times, where people won't understand you as a whole. They won't get you. They won't understand why your presence is necessary. They won't understand why your testimony is necessary. They won't understand why your mission and your vision are necessary. They don't get the point. That doesn't mean that you don't have a purpose. You do have a purpose. So just see the journey through to the end so that the purpose is understood by people who didn't understand it to begin with. If you quit mid-journey, the purpose will never come out. The purpose for your existence and your ministry and your testimony and your trials and tribulations will never be understood if you quit or give up in the midst of the journey. That thing hit me hard in that moment. And I was like, oh my God. I was so happy that I went fishing. Well, I went on the fishing trip. I never actually cast anything out, but I went on the fishing trip and I was so happy in that moment, because if I didn't go, how much longer would it have been before I understood that lesson? How much longer would it have been before I was in a place removed from all electronics before I could sit and reflect on that and get that lesson? I needed that. And I didn't even know I needed it, but I needed it. So I'm going to say those 2 points again. Point number one was go through the journey, because what's on the other side of the journey is amazing and it's awesome. And even if the journey is misunderstood, you don't understand the point of the journey. This is point number two. If you don't understand the point of the journey, it doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose. But just because people don't understand you and what you're choosing to do does not mean that you don't have a purpose. Do not second guess yourself. You may second guess the journey, but go through it anyway. But don't second guess yourself. Let other people second guess what you're doing and what you're being used for, because you are also being used as a tool for someone else. And somebody's not going to get the point, but let the purpose come forth. Your purpose will never come forth if you quit during the journey. I hope I've helped somebody, because I know I helped myself that day. That day, that morning, it really, really helped me. Really helped me. So hope I helped somebody. Whoever you know that needs to hear this, make sure you share it with them. You can share the video. You can share the audio. Definitely subscribe and follow so that you can stay tuned to more videos and future episodes of the Resilience Rising podcast. If you'd like to comment on this episode or any episode, or you have a topic, ideas, a suggestion, or even a question that you'd like to have answered on one of the podcast episodes, you could send it in to cinnamon@jamilawellness.org, or you could even text it to me at 786-475-2466. So you can rewind it to hear that again, but it's jamilawellness.org, cinnamon@jamilawellness.org, or 786-475-2466. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Like it, love it, rate it, comment, share it. like I said, subscribe and follow. So I'm going to say that this is Naturally Cinnamon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Thanks for tuning in to Resilience Rising with Naturally Cinnamon. Life has a way of tossing unexpected trials and circumstances our way. We can't stop them, but we can better handle them by raising our resilience. Creative Director Jeremy Key for J Key Collective. Music by AJ Miles.